How hard is it to make that a little bit bigger? Okay, it is 4:12 on January 8th, and we're in Craig, Colorado for the Public Education Participation and Outreach Meeting for the Ample Green Roundtable. I'm Ken Brenner, I'm chairing today. Sally, why don't you announce who you have present at this moment? We have Steve Hinkmeyer and Jeff Myers here in the room.
We have Tim Sullivan,
Tim
Michelle
Sullivan,
Mahosky, Kristen Jesperson, Holly Kirkpatrick,
Oh, great, Holly's joined us.
Doug Monger. That's everybody on line.
Thank you, everybody. We now need to go through the agenda. I'm gonna have Sally read the agenda or kind of summarize the agenda for you, and if there's no additions or corrections, we will ask for a motion to approve the agenda. I just want to keep thoughts on that.
We are going to look over the two grants today. And finalize minutes. We're gonna talk about, get an update, from Kristen Jesperson of the story map. Talk about some upcoming events, upcoming newspaper articles and field trips. And then we're gonna do partner updates.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of decision items on here, but that's generally the proposal agenda for tonight. Do I have any comments or a motion for approval? I'll move to approve the agenda. Okay, motion from Hinkmeyer.
Monger second.
For a second. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? So we have support for the agenda as approved. And just because you're not a member of the roundtable doesn't mean you can't participate and vote and so please use your voice. All right, public comment. Is there any public comment on any item not on tonight's agenda? Public comment. See anything? No, I'm not seeing any public comment tonight, so we'll close public comment. And now we're on our consent agenda. Consent agenda is our financials and our minutes. These can be approved in a single motion, or you can ask to have them pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion. If no one wants to pull any of the items for further discussion or explanation, then we just need a simple motion to approve the consent agenda. Would anyone like to modify the minutes or have questions on the finances?
I can go over the finances really quickly if you'd like, or.
I think
on the next.
I think maybe that would be helpful.
That would be good. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll pull the finances.
Because we're kind of starting new. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
the grant-
we sure are.
grant,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a good time to do that. All right, so then we need a motion to approve the minutes, and then we'll move to the financials.
So moved.
Steve Hinkmeyer for a motion.
Second from Tim Sullivan.
Second from Tim Sullivan. All in favor? of approval of the minutes from the last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? All right, Sally, take it away. Again, can you make that just a little larger?
A little larger.
I might
See what we can
Wait,
do
look.
here. Okay. That can get that all in.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
So this is, like Ken said, we're pretty much starting over. Again, this is our 2025 Pepo grant. This is a one-year grant. It started, at the end of November of 2024. It goes to the end of November 2025. So again, 1 year, and this Pepo grant is $25,000. A lot of numbers in here, but basically we're starting fresh and we have 24,702 for the year. This grant goes towards Pepo administration, meeting ads, Kristen's recorder services, and this is for the story map. So also Kristen Jefferson later will give a little bit of a financial overview of story map financials. So that's a little separate discussion. So that was the Pepo grant.
Any questions on the 2025 Pepo grant? This is an annual appropriation from the Colorado Water Conservation Board to support the activities of this committee. Okay, Sally, proceed.
Okay. Going on to our next grant. So this is the WSRF grant. This one is technically from the same end of November of 2024. They're giving us 5 years to spend it. It's a 3-year grant, but we typically don't spend it all within 3 years. So I think the CWCB is giving us a little leeway if we have extra left over, like we did this past year, to spend it again. So this past year, we just closed it out in 2024, we had $4,900 left over. We could not spend that, we couldn't roll it over, but I think they are taking that into consideration and giving us a couple extra years. So if we have $4,900 left over next year, or after the 3 years, we'll have 5 years to spend it. So
Super.
we'll be able to spend it all.
Thank you for the flexibility, CWCB.
Yeah. And, so CWCB, they're giving us 68,250. It says 91,000. So that difference of 22,750 are those matches that we have from our, in-kind matches. So that's the difference there. So again, we're starting over fresh. We don't have any invoices yet, so.
And who provided how much match?
I didn't write that down. I think some is Upper Yampa,
Oh, we should get a letter of thank you to
I
the,
think, and,
can you help me do that, Sally?
absolutely.
Thank you, Holly, to the Upper Yampa for their support.
Sorry, you caught me in the middle of a snack. You're very welcome.
All right, and then if we want to approve, any questions on those?
Any questions on the WSRF grant? We're just right at the beginning of both these grant cycles, so we have some money to spend, but we have a lot of work to do.
Sure do.
All right, so then we need a motion to approve the financials as presented. So moved. Got a motion from Hickmeyer.
Second from Sullivan.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Great, all right. Our next item is our story map and update. We wanted to get an update from Kristen, and I won't steal any thunder. I'll just turn this over to Kristen right now. Thank you.
Hi. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Good.
We're gonna move
Okay,
this.
I put together a couple slides. So if I can pull those up, let me just do that. They are not glamorous, but hopefully they get the information across. Let's see here. I just pull that out of the way. Okay.
Do you wanna just briefly about, where we think we're going, or do you have a specific place that you wanted to work that in? As per the conversation that you and Sally and I had.
Yeah, let me get through this overview and I'll lead up to that.
Perfect.
Okay, so the last time we spoke about this at the last Pepo meeting, we as a group pretty much approved the first phase scoping document, which I'm not going to go through at this time, but which laid out a plan for phase two. That is the steps that and information gathering that would be required for us to use the information gathered in the phase one and use that to inform what the eventual product would look like. Based on that document and that series of recommendations, I was tasked with putting together a scope of work for a phase two RFP. So I'm going to walk through what I've put together so far based on the input from phase one and our conversation last time. And then I will happily take your feedback on what that looks like. And I will say, I think to sort of preface this conversation, one of the bigger questions I have is about whether we think we can accomplish all of this within the time frame that we need to spend the money. So that's sort of, I'm just going to kind of lay that out there as one of the key questions. But that being said, the RFP or the scope of the RFP that I've put together will involve confirming sort of the final concept for the story map and the groupings of subject matter with the Basin Roundtable, Pepo. Starting to build out narratives, graphics, and really kind of pinpointing what we want to have on each section of the story map in the way of actual information, mapping data, imagery, so on and so forth. Start identifying where that information is and making decisions about which content and imagery we want to include. Do some GIS and statistical manipulation and formatting to lay the foundation for the actual story map. Then start building out the story map. So that is will involve writing the narrative, setting up the Esri page and account and any hosting that will be required, and then establishing a style guide. So looking at, what kind of continuity and branding we want for the site so that it looks polished and flows well. And then putting all of these pieces together to create the actual story map, and all the while involving this group in a way that makes sense to have get that information and to provide editing and feedback on what the various iterations contain. So it's broken down quite a lot, but the idea there being that there are a number of different steps, some of which can happen concurrently, and those will involve participation from this group so as to be able to collate the necessary information and identify where existing information is and make sure that we are capturing the messaging and the goals of the Yampa White Green Basin Roundtable to in an appropriate manner. So I have consulted with Patrick Stenko, who originally helped me sort of build out this project and budget with CAA, and he provided this update on the funding that we have available for this budget or for this project. So it's my understanding that, and based on the Pepo grant that was just reviewed, we have $7,949 available for the development of the website itself. That needs to be spent by the end of October, or at least invoiced by the end of October of this year. Then we have $15,000 of matching funds available through the Upper Yampa Water Conservancy District for this project. We also have $48,000 through that PEPO funding for Yampatika's time and efforts managing this project. And we have, yep, was there a thought? Oh, I thought I heard someone trying to say something. We have also secured $1,000 through the Upper Yampa Water Conservancy District to host the site once it is up and running in 26 and 2027. And so that is what I know we have available. Patrick did indicate that he thought there would be opportunities to secure additional funding as needed. And I clearly didn't finish my note on this slide, but my understanding is that we need to invoice this funding, as I said, by 10/31/25. So with that in mind, I have shored up a timeline for the scope that I just presented that is effectively a 6-month timeline with the goal of trying to accomplish all of those tasks and pretty much have a draft version of a story map by that time so we can spend those dollars and get this underway within a time frame that that funding will allow us to. So I've set out a timeline of issuing this RFP by February 20th, asking proposals to be due on March 15th, reviewing and interviewing firms and making a decision by April 1st, and then initiating the project by April 15th. So that's a pretty aggressive timeline. But that is, I think we would want to stick with no less than 6 months to accomplish that scope of work. And to be able to do that, we will need to get some pretty committed involvements from some key stakeholders on the Basin Roundtable. I will say that in conversations with LODIC about the recommendations that they put forth in the initial scoping document, we did talk about some of the questions that came up at the last PEPO meeting in terms of the maintenance implications of this site, and the affordability. And really, it comes down to, how many bells and whistles we decide we want to put on the site. If we stick with a format that is largely supported by Esri and the features that they currently have, they will tend to maintain a site and we won't have to, pay for extra features or embedded widgets or any other kind of more costly features at the front end. So we might be able to, build this out in sort of a more minimal way in this initial phase to see kind of what it looks like, and then identify if there are other features or any, say, animations that we might want, or more extensive graphics, or whatever it might be, video footage, if that's what we want. So we can kind of make those decisions as we go. So, and this phase of the project would really try to be minimalistic and stick with what Esri has, and then identify any sort of phase 3 add-ons that we might want that we would need to fundraise for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And what we're seeing here is that trying to ask the PEPO committee as a whole that meets only once every 2 months will be an insufficient amount of participation to help this move forward on a timely basis. So I think what we'd like to propose is having a small subcommittee from PEPO work with Kristen directly to, probably meet maybe once a month to, continue providing this type of input. We're thinking probably an hour once a month would be sufficient to, answer some of these questions and help provide the input that they really need. So what we're at a point now that we would like to ask for whom would like to be part of that committee. Holly, I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to participate, since I know you guys have a real interest in this project and you have some experience with story maps. Would you be willing to participate with Kristen?
Yes, and Kristen and I have spoke about this. Upper Yampa has been developing a story map. We're in the very final stages of launching a story map that will be on display at the Stagecoach Visitor Center. And then we will be working on building out a broader online story map for anyone to look at. Just keeping in mind that we needed to have a really condensed story map for visitors standing in front of a large screen in a public space. So I would be happy to help in that way, but I do want to be honest that in my experience of building out this story map, I think that limiting yourselves to 1 hour a month might be a bit restrictive. I think it could be a challenge to accomplish everything that you need to, just allocating 1 hour a month.
Well, and that's one of the main reasons I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to participate, because you have direct experience with this type of a project. Thank you, Holly. So who else would like to be a regular part of this effort to help get through the phase 2 of the story map?
And Sally has already, oops, sorry.
Sally is already helping, so just want to put my name in there.
Yeah, so we have the three people so far.
I will say, some of the expertise that I think we would benefit from on this group would be, anyone who has a strong sense for where there would be, good content in the way of imagery, good photography, anyone who has a sense for who has that and or, already has, a repository of imagery, any mapping data that would be useful. Anyone who sort of does this already and has a sense for where that lives to help streamline our collection of that information.
That
At
would
some
be
point.
Ken Bertrands.
Oh, yeah.
And Ken Bertrands is a member of the Pepo committee. And this is what happens when you're a committee member and you didn't make it to the meeting. So, hey, we have a fourth person now. Hey, Steve. Hi. As Jerry, are you asking to participate or you have a comment?
Both.
Yes,
Yeah, I can work on that group as well.
this would be great. Thank you, Steve.
I just think that we really, right now, we have nobody participating from the library. I know Chuck's on the committee,
Well, Chuck Whiteman was the name that
We're
came up.
telling
and
them.
I think Alden has provided lots of pictures when we were doing that.
Oh, that's true.
I've got all the pictures.
Yeah, when we were doing
They're on
those,
Google.
when we were doing the canvas.
Yep.
Stuff, so Alden or Chuck or even, who's our new commissioner?
Chris? Oh, Holly,
Yeah,
Kelly.
Callie would potentially be a good one, but
And
I think Chuck or, and maybe even Chris, because he's a chair.
Well, Chuck has a extensive background with mapping, so
Yeah,
but we could ask Chuck / Alden / Callie if they would like to participate,
or Chris, I mean,
or Chris for that
we
matter.
just, I think we need to
I
get
agree.
a couple of folks from the White River to participate in this group to make sure that It's a basin wide initiative. And
Agreed.
got some input into what's being used.
And just to make it clear, you don't have to be a member of the Basin Roundtable. to be a
Absolutely
part
not.
of this committee, so we can bring this to the roundtable also.
That's got to stand up.
Doug?
So yeah, I guess I always go back to ground zero sometimes. So just trying to figure out the what and the why are we doing this, and who are we communicating to? I mean, other than us people that are overloaded with river and water issues anyhow. So so I just want to make sure that we have that upfront and very firmly and enhanced in everybody's minds that what market are we heading out there, and what is our message. So I get worried about just making another thing, and oh, we made another thing, and yeah, we had all those videos that got made and the rest. I haven't seen any of them since, and so yeah, I just want to make sure that, the money follows intelligence, or hopefully so. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Beth.
And I think that's a question we'll be asking throughout the process. That's definitely an iterative question to be answering. But we, in phase one, to answer that very quickly, really tried to hone in on using this as a tool for our 5th grade and older classroom settings, where we're trying to give a succinct and clear and compelling overview of this dynamic watershed and the geography that it covers and the various entities that are responsible for managing it. And then in any setting where we're trying to communicate that information to the public as well. So whether it's at meetings or at public outreach events and or anytime that we're doing presentations, we can point to this resource as a way for the community to better understand the responsibilities of the Basin Roundtable, the various partners that are party to it, and the dynamic issues that are affecting the watershed, as well as point to the various live resources that its partners are maintaining. So it can serve as a clearinghouse that everyone can use to contextualize their dashboards, their mapping data, their river health assessments, whatever it might be. So the idea is that it's kind of this overarching library of information where people can find that out and better understand how it fits within this larger picture. So how we distribute it and use it, that there are some opportunities for us still to consider that and answer that as it starts to take shape. But a lot of it is really this community education and this youth education that this group has prioritized to date.
Thank you.
Another potential member of you don't have anybody really working for an agency. I know that the Colorado State Forestry Office, John Twitchell's office, has a GIS department, and they have a story map that they've already completed. So that might be another place where there's a lot of information and experience with this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think about how to balance expertise and interest with efficiency, because since it is a short timeline, I want to make sure that whoever sits on this subcommittee is, one, committed to being involved and active and has a clear understanding of kind of what they're bringing to the table, and two, that they're committed to following through on any action items that come up in those meetings, so that we can, again, kind of stay on pace with the development of the website, because that's, I think, what the key objective of the committee is. It would be a short-term commitment, but there would be some homework involved in making sure that we are connecting whomever we hire with the resources, and that folks are reviewing the content to ensure that it's consistent with the messaging of this group, ensuring that it's consistent with the Basin implementation plan. So all that is to say, there's going to be some kind of magic recipe of number of people on the committee. I don't want it to be like 12 people, because I think that then gets difficult to work with. But I will happily take the notes from this conversation and reach out to the folks that have been recommended and think through how we can cobble together an effective subcommittee.
Thank you, Kristen.
This is Chuck Whiteman, and I'll be glad to
Chuck.
help what I can. You bet.
Yes. Too late, we already volunteered. Did you already volunteer? Chuck.
You're hired.
Thank you, Chuck.
So that's all I have. And I guess the other question I have for this group is, other than kind of some of these bigger questions about, you know, the longevity of this resource, how long do we want this to be in operation? That affects this long-term maintenance question that came up last time. And in my mind, we would probably hope for at least a 5 to potentially 10-year timeline, depending on how technology shifts and changes and how people are using it. But I'm not sure if we have a vision for that. So that might be a question for the subcommittee to consider as we start putting some of these pieces together. Another question is just making sure that, again, we have, you know, do we have the full buy-in from this group to get the information we need and in a timely manner so that we can do this on time in the schedule that's planned. But I appreciate your interest and continued support in this project.
Kristen, do you have any just ballpark guess at what the expense for maintenance and hosting would be?
I would have to look at the phase 1. And again, it goes back to, you know, how many bells and whistles we land on for the site. But with kind of the simplest version of it, my understanding is that Esri will support most of the functions that are integral to the software that they offer. So we wouldn't necessarily have to pay more than the licensing fee that they charge. And I would have to look back at our report to see if that outlines what those costs are. Otherwise, I think it will just totally depend on, you know, what kind of features we build into the site. So if there's regular information that needs to be updated in any capacity, or embedded features that require regular updates, those are things to consider. There may be some content that requires maintenance from someone from this group or someone that we hire to do that. So I can't provide a number, but I can just kind of provide a universe of potential expectations. Does that help? And that's
Yes,
something
that,
we can
go ahead.
get more information about that through this phase of the project. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe this might be an important thing for you to report back in the March meeting, is that, you know, you will have had a chance to meet several times with your subcommittee. And maybe you can give us some ballpark estimates so that we can begin working on where that source of funding might come from, and see who might be interested in hosting and maintaining it.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for your continued participation and leadership on this story map project.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so a couple things, and this can be a year-long project. I agree, we probably need to have a subcommittee set up to do it. And listening to Kristen talk about the timeframes, we would have to have a meeting in February to approve her RFP. Yeah, we'd have to have a meeting in April to approve, or late March or early April, so it sounds like that. That's what she'd be choosing. And I think all that can be done with whatever you want to call this subcommittee of Pepo. I think we can do that,
Are you talking about doing
Not
that?
bringing it up. I don't think we should take that to the roundtable.
No, I'm talking about it in here.
Yes.
I think there should be a motion from this group approving setting up a subcommittee to assist the story map project.
Yeah, I mean, Pepo is kind of a subcommittee of the roundtable.
It is.
I don't think there's anything in our bylaws
That requires anything that we done.
that requires a subcommittee of a subcommittee.
So we can just make one.
I think we can
What
just
you're
make
gonna
one, it's
say.
just,
Yeah.
Who's gonna
I
do
mean,
it?
it's just like the IWMP process.
Yeah.
We saw the need for a subcommittee, the subcommittee voted and said, this group of people needs to get together to discuss these motions. Or these things, and then bring it back to the full committee to vote on.
Okay, and that's what we'll do, is we'll have the subcommittee report, that'll be an agenda item on every, Pepo, meeting. Every 2 months will be to have a report back on the story map. If you have any decisions that you need, clarification on. But otherwise, we'll assume that unless I hear right now, someone say, oh, I have real reservations about setting up this subcommittee to assist the consultant and Kristen on the story map, then the record will show that we've discussed this and asked the following people to be part of that subcommittee. And so I'm not hearing any objections, so we will proceed with that. Good luck, Kristen, and let us know what else we can do to support your efforts.
Thank you. Just,
Go ahead, guys.
oh, I was gonna say, one final point of clarification is, the RFP itself and getting that approved.
Is that ready to
What-
go tonight?
It was sent out to this group for review, so, I would turn that question back to all of you to say, how does it look, and or do you want some time to review it and get back to me so that we could approve it outside of a meeting? So that's allowed?
I don't know if we're ready to give you a final approval but we could have, why don't we, make sure we resend it to everyone
Okay.
and say that they need to get you feedback by, let's say Friday. And that way you know right away if there's any issues with it, and otherwise you've received our blessing. And you can do any, tweaks or refinements with your subcommittee.
Okay. Thank you.
So, hey, Michelle, can you remind me, what was the date that you said you were going to send that out to prospective contractors?
Believe it was, let me just pull it up
The
really
20th.
quickly.
I think it was 20 February,
Yes,
Yes.
February 20th.
15 March.
And I could push that up, if we get approval sooner than later, but that was my conservative estimate on the front end of decision making, so.
Is that the typical length that you're comfortable with, or could you work with two weeks of advertising the RFP? And the reason, let me just explain briefly that, we have a company that we're already working with. This is a new phase of it. In fairness, we wanted to make sure that we open it up for any other people that might want to bid this. But obviously, Lodic has an advantage, having spent so much time and work on it already.
Mhm.
Is that fair, Kristen?
It is, yeah, and I did ask if they would be interested in bidding on phase 2, and they expressed interest, so.
Okay. So we just want to make sure that we've given anybody else a chance. So, I personally don't see anything wrong with a 2-week advertising window, but again, you and your group can make those decisions.
So we've got potential new members that we just talked about.
Yep.
That may or may not have seen this.
They haven't.
So.
Right.
So like Friday is fine, but let's pick a Friday a couple weeks from now.
Okay,
Because we haven't, I mean, I don't know if Chuck has had even seen this in his inbox, if he even got it. And Chris or Alden or some of these other folks that we've talked about may or may not, so I think we need to get those members, get them on board.
let's give them another 10 days instead of 2.
Something, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Sally and Kristen will work on that timeline and move forward.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody that volunteered for participation in that subcommittee. It's important work for us. Our upcoming events.
Did you want a motion from the federal committee to?
Yeah.
Create this
Yeah.
subcommittee?
Yeah.
Group and to hold monthly meetings, so I would follow you, I think you gotta have a 2-hour meeting, and if you finish early, you finish early.
Absolutely. So we have a motion from Hank Meyer to form this committee for this, that works for Pepo to assist in the story map development.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second Margaret.
Second. Thank you, Doug. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Is there anyone opposed? All right,
I think we should put them up on we should put those meetings up on our
Yes.
website. And I think we ought to make them like the last Wednesday of the month. Right now,
we'll let the subcommittee decide when they want to do it.
well, so, yeah, I mean, there's other,
Meet not less than once a month.
there's other meetings. I
Yeah.
mean, there's the grant meeting or the BRT meeting
Yeah.
on the second Monday.
Yeah,
So they just need to pick a time. And I'm not sure I think we should pick a time to have the first meeting.
Right now,
right now. You have a proposal, Kristen, for your first meeting. If you do a 10-day comment from the Pepo committee on the RFP, then that means it would be, what, after the 17th sometime?
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to use this time to go through my schedule.
I'll
But
let you cover that. When you send out the RFP, I'll let you send out your doodle poll or whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that the last week in January looks viable.
Yeah, the last week is like terrible from my perspective, but I would be happy to attend any of these meetings if possible, so
Okay.
go ahead and schedule it on the last week, and I'll miss the first meeting. Okay, is there anything else on the subcommittee?
so I have a simple question, Ken. I'm sorry, this is Doug. So is this
Yeah,
all
Doug.
covered through the Community Ag Alliance? And are we already contracted with all this? The rest, I'm sorry, I missed all that. So I'm for whatever we're doing here, and I'm good with going forward. Just want to make sure we got the I's dotted and the T's crossed. Thanks.
I tackle that if you want. So please, so the administration of that, Doug, is covered under, the current grant that we got and the 1-year Pepo grant. The story map work is covered under the, 5-year, is mostly under the 5-year grant, but under the grant, so the money's covered. And it's not exactly under CAA, they've got a portion of it. Upper Yampa has got some funds involved. So it's gonna be a process that we'll have to figure out what role all those individuals are gonna play.
That
that
sounds
answer your
good,
question?
Steve. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just asking silly questions, so thanks.
That's funny. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the upcoming events. So we know that, we have the Water Congress meeting on the 29th, 30th, and 31st. This is down at the Hyatt Regency out by, the medical facility, Anschutz Medical Facility. We also, the two previous days, the 27th and 28th will be the Colorado Water Conservation Board meeting. The Upper Yampa State of the River meeting is on the March 25th. And that's the Steamboat one. The Craig one will be the 26th. We'll be seeing Rebecca and her crew. And then the White River State of the River in Rangeley will be April 2. All right. Any other upcoming events we want to make sure are listed? Do we have our River Festival dates? Anything else there? The Rendezvous is coming up before we know it. Any of those dates
Yeah.
firm yet?
The rendezvous, is the Wednesday and Thursday after Memorial Day, so I just have to look up those dates.
Yeah, okay, we'll get,
26th of May.
we'll get those up. And then there's the Yampa River Festival, and then we also have the Craig, Yampa River Festival as well. So we'll get a few more dates on. Anything else you got going on there right now? There's
The rendezvous is May 28th, 29, 30, and I assume River Festival is the 2nd and the 31st and the 1st.
okay, so they're all that same week. That's always a real busy week. Great,
Yeah.
thank you, Tim. Any other dates you want included? You can always just get a hold of Sally and let her know that you have something that is important that we make sure people are aware of. Sally, why don't you talk a little bit about agenda item 7?
Yeah, we've got our annual newspaper articles that we write through the Community Agriculture Alliance. And those dates have been set, so we have four articles to write. March 3rd, May 5th, and then August 25th and October 5th. Previously, we were thinking about maybe, for the first one, some grants that we were looking at.
Yes, Frank and I had talked about writing kind of a summary of where we were with the 2024 grant program, which is now closed out. With 500 words, it's not, you don't get a lot. So that would be why, because I mean, that's a big part of what this roundtable does is help distribute money to those that need help. So Frank and I would definitely do that. If there's something that comes out of Big River that we need another article, we can always delay that, but Frank and I could definitely work on that. That's.
Well, we
won't
want to
take
keep,
very long.
we want to keep our eyes open for these articles that Heather might put together for us, and yes, there would be some merit in asking your friend here locally as well.
Yeah.
We have we're committed to coming up with, I think it's 4 articles.
4 articles, yep, and then maybe.
But there's no limit on the number that we can write. I mean, the paper just, they'll either print it or they won't.
Yeah, well, we have 4 spots. Sometimes people have trouble writing theirs from other agencies, so it's always nice to have somebody loaded or ready to go.
Is March 3rd, then needs to get used?
Yeah, March 3rd is the date, I think that it'll be printed. Well, actually, it'll be, by March 1st.
March
Yeah.
1st.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you put those dates, that would be better for us.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll
But
just
yeah,
have to make
Frank and I
sure.
could commit to writing that 34, unless there's something that comes up that you guys feel is more necessary.
Then maybe we were thinking the White River, their, flow. If they have, their study on the flows.
So we should,
Right, the return flow study.
The return flow study,
That could be a potential.
I think at either the March or the May meeting, we're gonna try to get a presentation. Yeah.
From them. And I know the reports in process right now, it's being written. I just don't know when it'll be kind of finalized.
Well, and the White River may have another topic that they wanna cover, so we'll
Yeah.
reach out to them and see if they.
Yeah, we can ask
So if
Chris.
we have the spring ones kind of to think about, and especially the first one, I think then we're in a good spot, and then we can see what comes up over the summer and.
But if you have an idea, reach out to myself or Sally and we'll make sure we get it written down and follow up with it. Field trip ideas,
Well, I think we talked about,
the executive committee discussion.
yeah, an executive committee, maybe going, breaking out and going to one in the White River. Doing something, maybe in Steamboat, but especially in the White River, there's some big projects going on, so. Maybe, again, I think Steve said the July meeting was a good time for a lot of people, so I think. It was July 8th this year, so maybe, focusing at least one field trip and possibly more.
Yeah, so we.
I'd like to do more.
Yeah, so we talked about that field trip. We actually talked about moving the meeting to somewhere in Meeker if we can find the necessary resources.
Right.
To be able to do a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, well, and so this was just, came out of the executive committee discussions and the proposal was that. Maybe instead of having all 6 meetings during the year here in Craig, that we have one that's maybe in the White River and then maybe one that's upstream somewhere in Steamboat or Hayden. And, again, finding a suitable site will be critical, but because we have to offer a hybrid option. So, that would, and if we were to do that, then we would try to do a tour for anybody that wanted to come early and see what all is going on in that particular area. And we know the White River has stuff they want to talk about. I'm sure Julie has some things that she would love to show us. So that was an idea. So, all right, unless there's comments, I'll just keep rolling. Any comments? No comments. All right. Pepo liaison onboarding document. This is something that Sally prepared for us. Sally?
I just, did something really quick, whenever I started a job and learn new things, I just write them down. So if there's any transition, that it's easier for other people. So I just made a document, just how to do everything, YouTube, Canva, website, Facebook, and just all the different things that the liaison does and just kind of, make it into a little cheat sheet. So that's really, for admin here, but it exists, so. That's helpful sometimes. Let's see.
Everything that we didn't provide for you.
So it'll be a little less learning curve. But that's just, for us.
State this,
State messaging, haven't heard anything.
the
Have
info,
not heard anything.
well, they're working on the infographics. You have
We're
seen
doing
some
that, yep.
examples of that. They're putting something, there'll be a lot of generic content in it, but there'll also be unique content for each basin. So we will be contacted. Is Michael the one that's doing that? Do we know who it is?
I haven't heard Michael, who was it from Orange something, I can't remember her name.
Oh, that's all right. So we'll be contacted.
Yeah, I was expecting that was gonna happen in December, but, must be changing that.
So we will have a document developed. A simple one that will talk about our message, but it'll be done in a graphic. A good example is look at the work that was done by the Water Conservation Board to explain the Colorado River compact water use in the upper basin versus the lower basin. Complicated topic. They put it into a very simple bar graph that everybody could understand that there's a disproportionate use of the amount of water that's being used. So some type of infographic that helps talk about each of the river basins around the state. So we've got to watch out for that. And now we have a chance to do a quick run through on partner updates.
Oh, Steve?
Steve, I'm sorry.
I just had a question, Kim, and when we were talking about state updates, so when we went in October, we went down to that.
C9.
To the C9.
Yeah.
We marked on the board, they took a lot of information, how the Pepos work, what messaging works, what doesn't, what's your priorities. All of that, we have heard nothing.
That's the lady we're talking about right now. So they are going to get back to us. I forgot her name, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I assume some of it has to do with Russ's sudden exit from the Colorado Water Conservation Board. Because even his staff only had about a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
And they weren't surprised to see that he did something, but there, and anytime you have that kind of a significant transition from a section chief, there's a lot of scrambling, and I know from my conversations with Kat, she's been going 100 miles an hour trying to get her feet under her, so we'll follow up and see if we can find out more a specific timeline, and anybody that wants to be involved in commenting on that, that'll happen sooner than later, so we'll
I'd
keep
love
you
to,
posted.
I'd love to
Same here.
I'd love to get them at this meeting, at our Pepo meeting, and give them some time to talk about what they
Let's put that down as potential agenda.
discovered, or what they, what were the things, because we spent quite a bit of time talking about that.
Yeah, let's move that up to number 6 next
I
time.
do know that she was gonna work on a different basin, try and work on their infographic first. And I'm not sure who that was,
Okay.
so I think she's trying another basin as a test and kind of gonna go from there, so.
But if we get anything definitive on the white, green infographic, we'll get that out.
We always seem to be first, they might as well make us the poster child again.
Well, South Platte and the Arkansas, I believe, both already have done something historically. They just wanted to update it, and they'll probably start with those two. And then that'd be my guess, because they already have a document that's been used. Okay, we want to be done here by 1:15, so we're running out of time.
We do have an update from Michelle Mahosky from Yampitika really quickly.
Okay,
Michelle, are you there?
I am. Hi, Michelle Mahosky. I'm the Water Education Coordinator with Yampitika. Just a quick little report. Yampitika has seen significant growth throughout the fall with program numbers and successful events. We continue to strengthen partnerships throughout the Yampa White Green River Basin and build rapport with individual community members and students. There have been many highlights and success stories. A few of these Yampitika partnering with the Yampa White River Museum to connect with Meeker Elementary 4th graders for an explorative field trip, kind of showcasing Colorado water history and the Continental Divide. There has been collaboration with Stagecoach State Park and Sirocco middle schoolers to explore hydrology and watersheds. Yampa River State Park to provide a robust field trip for Sleeping Giant 2nd graders. Kind of field study portion of a lesson titled Shape of the Land. Yampitika has visited Meeker kindergartners to build a beaver, a hands-on lesson the students thoroughly enjoy, where a student gets to actually dress up like a beaver and talk about adaptations along the way. With Meeker High School ag students, we've done a lesson about forest succession and fire management, which was enjoyed by all the students as it involved a matchstick forest. Rangeley 5th graders had a lesson about aquatic food chains, and 2nd graders have explored properties of water. These lessons have been described as magical by teachers and observed to have had impact both academically and intrinsically in these students. The teachers and students eagerly await the days Yampitika visits their classroom, and feedback reveals that students are excited and engaged, praising the creative and interactive teaching methods. Yampitika continues to look ahead in growing successful programs such as Yampa Valley Science School and the Yampa Youth Water Festival, both which happened this past fall. again, partners such as Rocky Mountain Youth Corps and the Upper Yampa Water Conservation District will allow for more students to be reached through staffing support and match funding looking ahead. A future goal of the Water Festival is to invite fifth graders from both Meeker School District and the Rangeley School District to attend the festival as part of the Yampa White Green Basin. And so with that, there is a possible need for more presenters and of course, more volunteers at the upcoming festival, which will be taking place, it looks like in early October, 2025. So details are currently kind of being planned by the steering committee there. If there is any interest in future presenters, we would love to have you all. And other events Yampa-Tika I have participated in include the annual Colorado Environmental Ed Alliance Conference in Denver, a beaver dam analog training hosted by the Nature Conservancy in Meeker, a snow school mini conference hosted by the Winter Wildlands Alliance, and the Yampa Basin Rendezvous Steering Committee. This is all kind of within my time of stepping in at the beginning of August. Also, looking ahead, the Cast the Fly Catch a Student curriculum is an amazing resource, which is available to teachers and students, and possible looking at training that would dovetail with an Orvis endorsed certification that I already have there. We also have reached out with some community events such as a river cleanup with SOS Society, a guided hike up at Fish Creek Falls with the WCB folks actually. And really on the table in the near future is the seal of for climate literacy, which Yampa-Tika is really hoping to kind of forerun and instill as a partner in the secondary education community and beyond, really. Yampa-Tika staff will also participate in level 1 avalanche training this winter. And really, Yampa-Tika's data says it all, with the total number of student interactions for water ed within the 6 school districts in the Yampa White Green Basin for this fall semester of the 24-25 school year being 2,347 student interactions. So we're excited about that, and on target to meet and exceed program goals for the rest of the school year, and look ahead to the many possibilities for this year as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, and Yampa-Tika continues their work to be one of, if not the best example of outreach to the K-12 school system. So congratulations and thanks for your continued work. Friends of the Yampa have a report. Ollie, did you have anything for Upper Yampa Water Conservancy District? Hearing
Sorry, I'm
none,
having
then I
some
would-
I'm having some
Oh, that's-
technical difficulties here, Ken. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I already gave an update on the story map that Upper Yampa is working on. Michelle gave a very thorough overview of the 3rd annual Yampa Youth Water Festival, which was a huge success. And then I just want to reiterate the Yampa River dashboard, which is available to everyone at youryampariver.org.
YampaRiver.org. Thank you. That's great to, congratulations and thank you for that work. Tim, I think you have something from the Sustainability Council.
Sure. Let me turn on my video. Dark here. The announcement that Sally and I wanted to say is that we have hired a new resilient water and watersheds director at Yampa Valley Sustainability Council that will work on a lot of the issues that the roundtable deals with, and that most of you probably know her already, Jayla Poppleton, who was the head of Water Education Colorado. So I think she will be a great asset to the valley and to the basin in terms of water education, and hopefully can get her involved in the work of Pepo in particular on communication and other water. So So she starts she will be remote through June, but starts in January in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I don't think there's a more qualified person to participate on this committee than Jayla, so please extend our invitation.
And Tim will still be around.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's
Tim.
gonna be the senior director of
Yeah, I'm not-
climate resilience, so I just wanna make sure that everybody knows that he won't be going too far.
Okay, that's good to know. Tim, do you want to say anything about your new responsibilities?
I'm shifting a bit more into some project work, including the Headwaters of the Colorado work and other things, but we'll stay involved in the roundtable and other issues. So still to be
Thank you.
determined.
Yeah, it's great having you on board. Thank you. We haven't received anything from Water Education Colorado, I don't believe. Water Conservation Board meeting coming up at the end of the month. Colorado Water Congress we've already covered that. I don't have anything to add other than they are offering, Lauren Riss will be the moderator. Lauren's the director for the Colorado Water Conservation Board. She has set up a panel discussion. It's a plenary session. And invited the chairs from the roundtables. Steve has asked me to be his stead, for that, and we've already had a pre-meeting, and I noticed as I sat down that we've gotten an updated list of questions that we're gonna present to the Colorado Water Congress membership. We'll probably have 500 people there at least. And just to tell them more about the roundtables, and maybe it's a resource that they haven't fully utilized. If you've never been to the Water Congress, it's pretty much all engineers, attorneys, lobbyists, NGOs. Anybody that's doing anything really with water is there. There will be a legislature members is there as well. Our last report will be from the Community Ag Alliance.
I haven't heard of any major changes.
We might reach out to Amber and just see what kind of participation she would be comfortable with, because Michelle's always been pretty solid. She may not just be aware of that yet. Any other topics that you would like to see on next agenda? We had a request to move, to try to get some kind of a presentation on the state messaging, if that's appropriate. Anything else that we need to be discussing as a Pepo committee?
I think throw the agenda item for this, so.
Oh, yes, we want reports from the new story map subcommittee. And we're gonna reach out to all of our partners about a week in advance and ask them if they want to provide a short narrative that we can include in the packet instead of them actually participating in the meeting itself. Remember, all you gotta do is drive down here to Craig and we'll feed you a great meal, because we're gonna stop here in just about 1 minute and we're gonna go have fresh fajitas. Anything else from anyone? Anybody online?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Ed Meyer. Second from Jeff Myers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And thanks again to all the members that are participating in the story map committee. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Kristen.
So. And I was really tempted, we didn't have time, but I was really tempted to add